I'd like to go over a little bit about random number tables, generating random numbers, and how we would be able to use those in sampling or in selection in statistics. So here is a table of random digits. As it turns out, random is a pretty challenging thing mathematically to create. And so sometimes we rely on tables to help us be more random. Here's a table of random digits, and so you can combine these digits together in whatever length you want. So if you want one-digit numbers, perhaps using that top row, you could use a 1 and a 9 and a 7 and a 7. Or maybe you want two-digit numbers, and so you could use 19 and 77 and 09 and 11. Those spaces in the middle are basically arbitrary. I'll move over here so I can write on them. These spaces are just arbitrary to make it easier to read. So if you wanted three-digit numbers, there would be your first three-digit number. There's your next three-digit number. There's your next three-digit number. No sense in skipping any numbers. Use whatever number of digits you need and just continue on down the line. And then when you get down here to this 3, wrap around to the other end, and your next digit would be the 5 over here. Sometimes random number tables will be numbered. The rows themselves will be numbered. So you might start out with, this could be row 101, 102, 103, 104. And so sometimes you're instructed to start on a certain row. And what that allows is for all the students to get essentially the same random numbers, and therefore check and make sure that the process is correct. Sometimes you might want to simulate rolling dice, and one way to do it would be to take this table here and scratch out all of the 7, 8, 9s, or 0s and just use the digits that are left. Sometimes you might choose to use a table like this one where that's already been done. So this is a list of random numbers between 1 and 6. We could have a variety of different ones. Sometimes we want to use a table to make random selections. So here's an example of that. Let's say that I have these 12 students and I want to randomly pick 3 of them to be a part of a committee. So since I have 12 students and the digits, the most number of digits I have in this list is 2, I'm going to have to turn all of the numbers into two-digit numbers. So this is 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06. You get the idea. Now what I'll do is as I go through my table, I'll consider 2 digits at a time. My first student would be student 19. I don't have a student 19. Skip it. Then a student 77. Here's student 9. That's my first student to be selected. Ignacio gets the green light. The next student is this student number 11. I like that as well. Kyle gets the green light. I don't know why I put 010 and 011. Ignore that. Continue. 75, 49, 51, 16, 97. And here's the last one. Student 4, Donald. So my random group of 3 would be Ignacio, Kyle, and Donald. If I had come across the same person again, I would just simply ignore it, because in this case, I wanted 3 students on the committee, and that's the way I could go through doing it. Now you notice that I have to toss out a lot of numbers as I go through this process, and that might be annoying to you. So I could change the way I number over here. So I'm going to erase all of this and show you another example. So now I've got 12 students. Maybe you're really good at dividing, maybe you're not. But this would go into 100 8 times. 8 times 12, 96. So now what I'm going to do is use the digits 1 to 8 to represent Annie, 9 through 16 is Billy, 17 through 24, 25 through 32, 33 through 40, 41 through 48, and I'll continue. So now each student has 8 digits that we're using. 8 numbers represent that student. And then when I get down here, I run out of digits, or I run out of people before I run out of digits. So 97 through 00 will be tossed out or ignored. And now I can go through my table. So the first one is 19. 19 corresponds with Karis. The next student is 77. 77 corresponds with Janet. And then 9 is the last one. 9 corresponds with Billy. So in this case, I'm using the blue digits and not these black digits here that I had listed. So there's a couple of different ways to use that random number table to select students. One other thing we might do is use a calculator. And so here's how I do it on the TI. This is a TI-84 Plus. If you press Math, Probability, this fifth one down here is rand int, and the arguments will be a lower bound and an upper bound, and then how many times you want to do it. So if I wanted 3 students between 1 and 12, I could use my calculator here to do that. Get rid of these again. So now random integer between 1 and 12, and I want 3 of them. Hit enter. Students 12, 11, and 2. Larry, Kyle, and Billy would be my selected ones. Now, if we just reset our calculators, essentially they'll all be looking at the same place on their random number table. So sometimes we want to tell our calculators to start in different places. One way to do that is to type in a number. I have my students type in their phone number and store it, this is the stow button, into Math, Probability, Rand. Now what that does is it tells the calculator to start at a certain spot. This is the seed value for my random number generator. And now, if all of my students have different phone numbers, then all of their calculators are basically looking at different places on their internal random number table, and we'll end up with different random numbers. On the other hand, if I'm checking your procedure, I can have everybody type in the same phone number or the same seed number, and now when they do a function like this, every one of them who typed in that seed will get student 1 first. Notice that when I didn't put in a third number on here, it simply returns 1 integer between those 2 numbers right there. So that's a quick overview of how to use a random number table or a random number generator to select people or items that have been previously numbered.